like to call the Iberia Parish Council meeting to order. The date is July 12, 2017. The time is 6:01. If we can stand for the prayer and pledge. Mr. Trahan.
Dear Heavenly Father, as we come here today, bless us in the right frame of mind that we can do the business of the parish in a fair and impartial way, dear Lord. Dear Lord, guide us as we go through the week that we may live Christ-like lives, dear Lord. Help the sick, help our president, dear Lord, and the armed forces, dear Lord. Keep them safe and bless them, dear Lord. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Mr. Tommy Landry, will you lead us to pledge?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Tommy Howard.
Here.
Michael Landry.
Here.
Tommy Landry.
Here.
Lloyd Brown.
Here.
Warren Gottschalk.
Here.
Nellie Broussard.
Here.
Paul Landry.
Here.
Ricky Gonsalas.
Here.
Joe Dugas.
Here.
Gino Day.
Here.
Brian Napier.
Here.
Bernie Francis.
Here.
Warren Trumpet.
Here.
Chad Montgomery.
Here.
We have a quorum. Just a reminder to everyone to silence their cell phones, please. We will move to public comments. I need a motion to go into public session.
So move.
Moved by Mr. Gonsalves, seconded Mr. Paul Landry. Roll call. That motion carries. The first item on the agenda is Mrs. Andamai. I'm going to take that out of order. She's on her way from another meeting. She'll be here in just a minute. So I'll go to the second item, which is Mr. Ben Longlinay to provide an overview of the tidal influence effects on Iberia Parish drainage systems. Mr. Longlinay present?
Yes. I've got a little short PowerPoint presentation. Get control of it from over there.
Let Ray do it from the laptop.
While Ray's getting that up, let me preface my remarks to tell you why I ended up over here. I don't know if Larry was purposely setting me up on something, so I'm hoping I'm not walking into a nest. But a few weeks ago, with all the rain we've been having, drainage is on everybody's mind, and in my position in the office that I sit in, we got people coming in every day to talk about drainage. But when you see the parish president and a former parish president come through the door all at one time, you wonder what the hell's going to happen next, But they wanted to talk about drainage. We sat down and I gave them a brief presentation. I presented some facts to them, and that's how I ended up on the agenda tonight.
Mr.
Larry was
Longlinay,
trying
before
to-
you go too far, just so everybody knows,
Okay.
why don't you make sure you give your full name and what that business is? So
All
no
right,
one's
my
confused.
name is Ben Longlinay. For those of you who doesn't know me, I have made my career. I had two careers in Iberia. One was with Texaco, working in the oil field, and then the last 28 to 30 years, I have been working with the U.S. Department of Ag, and I'm an agricultural engineer, and I work for the agency. And it looked like Ray's having some trouble. We can't make it come up, Ray? I work for the agency that helped design and bring federal dollars into the parish of New Iberia back in the late 60s. And they helped develop the current drainage system that we have in the parish. And that's where we at, and that's what I do for a living. So I deal with facts and figures. I'm not going to give you none of my opinions here tonight, because I can do that too, But this is not what the intention is of here. There was two things on the agenda that Larry wanted me to cover. because he felt the council needed to hear some of this stuff because you got a fairly new council. And some of this history for our Iberia Parish is it's very old. As a matter of fact, you're gonna see on a slide later on that we'll see how old it is. But the two things that Larry wanted me to talk about was the history of Iberia Parish drainage system and why the daily tidal fluctuations in Iberia Parish are affecting drainage on a day-to-day basis. The history of the parish, back in the late 60s or mid-60s, federal dollars were funded. It came through Public Law 566. They came to Iberia Parish through a cooperative agreement between the federal government and which at that time was the police jury system. And they put together this work plan. It was called, it's actually 2 books, and I didn't want to make this presentation very long, so I kind of didn't put all these slides in here, but you have 2 plans. You have the Lower Bayou Teche watershed, and you had the Upper Bayou Teche watershed, and then you had the Upper Vermilion, which also affected Iberia. Next slide, Ray. I thought we wouldn't have been able to see that, but that was the scope of the project, and it kind of spells out on the top the parties involved, and it was the Iberia Vermilion Soil and Water Conservation District. At that time, Iberia and Vermilion were one. Now we're separate. We got the Iberia Soil and Water Conservation District that's in Iberia Parish, and you got Vermilion Soil and Water Conservation District in Abbeville. Then you had, Ray, I thought it would have been bigger, but I'm sorry, I apologize for this. Let's go to the next slide. It's right there is who are the people who signed off on this, and at that time it was Ernest J. Fuqua Sr. Is that related? He signed that was back in 1969. And then you had the other Ernest in Iberia Parish who signed, who was the secretary of the Iberia Parish Police Jury in June 17th of 1969. The gist of all of that was they had millions of dollars that came into the parish, and the whole gist of it was to design a system and look at every major outlet, every major channel in Iberia Parish, and determine if they were adequate or inadequate. And then there was funding that was put in there to dredge them out if they were inadequate. And so if you look at this, you can see Iberia Parish, and all those little blue lines, those are channels that are in Iberia Parish. And they all drain on, especially, you got basically 3 systems of drainage in Iberia Parish. You've got everything south of Bayou Teche, which goes and catches the Lake Pignier, goes and catches parts of Lafayette and parts of Vermilion, and they all drain into Vermilion Bay. The other channel, the other system is the Bayou Teche channel, which Pat and I were talking about earlier. Bayou Teche takes all the water from the north all the way to Rapides Parish and comes down and empties through. The outlet for that is not in Iberia Parish, it's in St. Mary Parish, which is the Sherrington Canal, some people call it. It was a canal that was dug to bring Bayou Teche south, because when they levied off the Atchafalaya, they cut off the Bayou Teche as it emptied into the Atchafalaya River. So they put a levee there. Bayou Teche had no place else to go, so they cut through the ridge and came south to the bay where they call the Jaws. The other system is the basin part, and the Bayou Teche part and the basin part are connected, so to speak, because all of that basin part, or north side of the Bayou Teche Ridge, drains through that same outlet, through the Jaws, and comes out in Vermilion Bay. Okay, Ray. This is that's the brief history of what I wanted to tell you all about. So what we have is at the Soil and Water Conservation District has all of the old files of all of the surveys and designs of all of the channels in Iberia Parish. There's not many parishes in coastal Louisiana that have that. That we have all the old surveys, we have all the designs. So you have the historic layout of the parish, and what those channels were designed to do. That was done in the 60s. We figured out that on that document, there's about 38 years to the day when that document was signed. So we're looking at almost 40 years have passed since we visited that. So now, the second part of what the agenda was today was to present to y'all some tidal data in Iberia Parish. And if I do anything, if I could get across to every one of you today, that site right there, the USGS site, if you Google USGS 07387040 Vermilion Bay near Sycamore Point, it will bring you to that site. And when that site comes up, I don't have a pointer, but if you look on the left side, in the left side there's a bunch of check marks right there. There you go. Uncheck all those boxes. If you want to look at all that other stuff, you can, but keep the bottom one checked. It says that's the one that gives you the gauge history on the right datum for Iberia Parish. And what you can do is you can look at this anytime you want. You can look at back dates. You can look at it right there. When I did this slide, it was Tuesday when I did this. So next slide, Ray. Okay, so what I did is I took that site, and what I did was I printed what that gauge at Sycamore Point was doing in Vermilion Bay from January the 1st of 2017 till today. Actually, it was July the 10th when I did it. Now, one of the things was, why is tidal activity affecting the drainage system of Iberia Parish? What I did there is I put a red line through that data. And if you look at that red line, every time that blue line is above the red line, those channels in Iberia Parish will not be operating as they were designed to operate. Thank you. So what does that mean? They go to the next slide, Ray. I kind of gave you another picture here, just some glimpse in time. On April the 30th of 2017, I don't know if y'all remember that. It looks like a long time ago, but on April the 30th, 2017, see the red line? Red line was doing from April the 19th through the 29th. We were doing really, really good. We were at a -0 in April. So the drainage systems could function really, really well. But remember, every time that blue line crosses that red line, it ain't good for the parish. This is not opinion, people. This is facts. I'm looking at the data. I'm looking at the design data on how these systems were designed to work. So what I'm telling you is that anytime that blue line crosses that red line, we have problems in Iberia Parish. On April the 30th, 2017, at 8:15 in the morning, the Vermilion Bay was sitting at a 4.66 feet. I've hardly ever seen that. That was no tropical depression. That was just a south wind blowing. So there are lots of variables that affect the drainage in the parish. One of them is the tides. 2 is the rainfall. Okay? We have been extremely lucky in Iberia Parish that the two haven't happened at the same time. On that same day, Mamou, Louisiana, which is probably 50 miles as the crow flies, got 10 inches of rain. I'm telling you right now, if we'd had 10 inches of rain in Iberia Parish, it would have been devastating to the parish because the water would have had no place to go. Next slide, Ray. I took the same gauge and spread it out from June 17th to July. Anybody want to guess what that peak was just a few weeks ago? That was Tropical Depression Cindy. We had no rain in Iberia Parish. Water was at 4.8 feet. Delcombe was underwater. We had water in the Shrimp Festival building. Next slide. Here is August the 12th, 2016. That's the big rains that everybody keeps talking about. Okay? Look how lucky we were in that time span. The rain fell on August the 12th, 13.54 inches. The channels, the outlets to the bay were below zero. Drainage was trucking along. But because of all the water coming from the north and the overload, that's above a 100-year storm, 13.5 inches. Look where the water elevated to in the bay. So, if we would have had a 4.8, in the bay on that day with 13.5 inches of rain? It was bad with 13.54 inches, but it would have been 4 foot worse than what it was. Next slide, Ray. What I tried to do here was try to show y'all what the digital elevation models look like in Iberia Parish. And if you look, let's see if I can understand how to operate this thing.
Other way. Turn
Oh, yeah, you gotta point it the right way.
That's the top one. Other one.
The other top.
There's two buttons.
Spin around.
One red, one white.
Anyway, I know these channels by heart. You can try, and you can help me. The middle? All right,
There you
okay,
go.
now we got something here. This is Lake Pigneau right here, or Lake Peña, whichever you choose your pronunciation. This is the Delcom Canal right here. I'm not usually this jittery, but that has got me nervous, so come on, man. All right, this is the Jefferson Canal, goes to the lake here. The next one over is Poufet Canal. This is Petitons. This is the major artery for all of the water coming from the north, which Petitons changes into Port Perdue further north from here. Okay? Next slide, Rick. Oh, look, by the way, this is, if you look at the elevations, if you look to the right here, the blue is between 0 and a minus 12. 163 feet on Avery Island. All of this light blue here, as you can tell, is less than, say, 5 feet, 6 feet. So the big part of the parish here is at about a 5 foot elevation, and you had an elevation of 4.8 in the bay. That ought to tell you a lot, what's going on. Next slide. All right. This, what I was trying to do here was try to give y'all a better idea of what I've been trying to say right here. This is an actual profile on Bayou Petitons. Ray, back up one slide. That survey started right here at the Delcom Canal. Okay, keep that in mind. These station numbers here start from 0 to 100,000. Okay, so that each station is 100 feet, so that's 1,000 foot upstream. That's all I could fit on that slide right there. But what you have here is that dotted line is the normal ground of where the surveyors recorded as they were going upstream. Okay? This is the bottom of the channel at each one of those stations. That was the existing channel back in the 60s when this thing was surveyed, okay? Well, when Soil Conservation Service did the designs and sized these channels, they figured out that the planned bottom, this is where the bottom needed to be, this is where it was, so they excavated all of this out. That was done with the monies in the 60s, okay? We had the design on that canal, on Petitons, at that point right here is 40 foot wide bottom, 1.5 to 1 side slopes. Okay. Let's go to the next slide, Rick. I was just trying to make it a little bit more visual. What does that top line mean? When the engineers do a design on a channel, where the water flows from the high to the low. So you've got to have, if water over here is higher than over here, this water is going to be above this line. So the design for the outlet back in the 60s, it was deemed that the outlet was going to be at a +1, okay? Which was pretty good. You know, that it turns out that they were pretty darn close. And this, what I tried to show here, this is how much excavation took place right here. The next slide, right? Okay. This is what y'all need to understand. When you design a channel with an outlet that is tidally influenced, anytime the tide is above 1 right here, this channel is outside of its design parameters. So what happens? Here, I tried to draw in what the water was for Cindy. So what happens is, because the bay is at a +4.8, the water is, instead of starting at this point, it's at this point. So what happens now? There's two things that are happening. If you got a lot of rainfall, which we didn't have for Cindy, you'd have water, you'd have two heads bucking against each other. You'd have the tidal flood headwaters, and you'd have the headwaters from the north bucking up against each other. But that didn't happen. What's happening here is this red line would depict a slope going inward. And it's trying to fill up every hole in the parish. And it's not going to stop till it reaches this elevation. The two things you need to remember about tide. The tide water that inside of the system is the other variable that is very, very important. It's not only how high the water is in the bay, it's how long will it stay at that height. Because it's a function of time. Because this cross-sectional area of this channel is going to carry water full, banked full to this red line inward. Instead of it working for you now, it's working against you. It's a double-edged sword when you dig drainage in Iberia Parish on the coast. Because not only do you provide an outlet for the water to go out, you provide an outlet for the water to come in. We didn't know all of those things back in the 1960s. But things have changed. You know, we got 38 years, and for some reason the tides are getting higher. So, I don't know if I was able to relay to y'all in this little short time span how the tides were affecting drainage, but this situation right here is on every major outlet in Iberia Parish. Every one of them. So, I hear people say, well, the tide doesn't affect me on Bayou Teague or Bayou Teche. Like hell it doesn't. Next slide, Rael. This is a slide. On the day of Cindy, I sent out an email to Tim Osborne, who is with NOAA, who is in charge of kind of the reconnaissance and helping put together all the tidal stations used to monitor the tidal gauges in the bay, not in the bay, but in the Gulf for hurricanes, okay? I sent him out and I told him, I said, we are seeing a plus 4.4 to 4.5 in Delta. A few minutes later, I get this email from LSU, which is the model that was used to predict what Cindy did. What I'm telling you is this model is built. I can't share it with all of you, but I can share it with some of you. Where the site is, and that guy right there probably has it already. So, but what LSU was asking me to do was to look to see how these elevations were matching with what they predicted it would do. Okay? This is interactive because you see right here, you can go in there and put the different dates in here. Now this is what I find really, really intriguing when you look at this. I'm trying to explain to you how the tides affect the drainage in Iberia Parish when we have models already there to tell you how it affects it. The only thing missing to this model is the internal infrastructure being plugged into this model. And I am going to do my best to get it that we can have this available so that it not only, see, like if you look right here, you see where the Vermilion River is, which is, let's see, let me find myself, it's all covered with water. The Vermilion River, am I close, Ray? Can you tell on this slide?
You just missed Alphaville, you just missed.
Right here?
Yeah.
Okay. The Vermilion River, if you look at it, you can see, I'm too far away from it to get the gist of it, but when you look at it on the computers, you can it's plugged in. They have Vermilion River plugged in. Look at what's going on over here. This is the Wax Lake outlet right here. Now, if you don't think the tides are affecting Iberia Parish, the tides are affecting the Atchafalaya Basin. Look at what the water levels were in the Atchafalaya Basin. Now, they had two things going against them there. They have the water coming down, you got the water coming up, and they're meeting. And it goes up because the water has to be higher. It reaches, the longer it stays rising, the more the water levels rise, and then they start bucking into each other. But this is what I find very interesting. Right before, anybody want to take a guess? And I probably shouldn't endeavor into it. You see all this over here? All this area, I work this part of the world. We're sitting at an average elevation here in Iberia Parish, probably 4.5, 5 foot. On the lower end of the parish, we've got minus elevations over here. They ain't got no water. Guess why? They got a levee here, got a levee here, got a levee here. Why do you think St. Mary Parish right here didn't have any water? They got a levee system. But that's another topic for another day. Let's go to the next slide, because I kind of zoomed in on Iberia Parish to kind of show you how close they got when they modeled this. They missed it by about a foot. They missed it by about 1 foot. I'd rather be a foot high if I'm trying to warn people than a foot low. They were a foot high. And I attribute that to because we don't have the internal system plugged in. Because it's spreading more than what they're giving it credit for, because the model doesn't have the infrastructure in place. And that brings me to my last slide, and I've probably taken more time than I thought. If y'all have, I have time to take a few questions, Larry? Yeah. Y'all have some questions of what I tried to do here?
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Longley?
No.
Mr. Landry, did you have something?
No.
Mr. Richard?
I did a real good job, or I confused all of y'all.
You did a good job.
I know this took 25 minutes, but I wanted to make sure that the council would get to see this, because some of you probably have never seen anything like this, and I want us all to be as close to being on the same page moving forward as possible. So I know it took 25 minutes, but hopefully it was informative.
I think it was
Thank you for doing that.
valuable information. I appreciate it, Mr. Richard.
Thank you.
Mr. Trial?
Yeah, this was very informational, seeing it on the map, but almost all the ones he talked about in Iberia Parish comes through District 14 and 13 on the west side of the parish, all the Delcom, the Jefferson, Petitons, and that. So that's why I'm so evident about drainage in our district, in me and Chad's district, you know, and that's why I push for more millages for public works and public drainage. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
All right, next
Thank
we'll
you so
hear
much,
from
Ben.
Ms. Suzanne Demaye to address the council to announce her candidacy for the 16th Judicial District Court Division. It says Division 8, but that's not.
It's Division B.
B.
I think it's it might be Section 8, but it's Division B. Thank you. I apologize for not being here earlier. I'm actually trying to multitask, so I was in St. Martin Parish School Board and Iberia Parish School Board before trying to get here. So thank y'all so much for allowing me to go second instead of first as I was listed on the agenda. For those who haven't met me yet, my name is Suzanne Demaye. My purpose here tonight is to introduce myself and to announce my candidacy for the 16th Judicial District Court. Some of you may have already been made aware, Judge Demaye, who has been on the bench for 31 years, announced his retirement effective December 31st. So that's called us to have a special election on October 14th. I decided about a year ago, I had some information, so I knew he was looking at retiring. So I decided about a year ago to take this into consideration. And there was a lot of consideration that had to be made because, as you know, as elected officials, it's a life of public service. Some people don't realize that the judges, the commitment they have to make, it is a public service that they're doing, and a lot of the decisions they have to make, they have to also take into consideration how that affects the community. And that's one of the things that's important to me, and especially during this campaign time, is to get out and to meet as much of the different communities as I can. This is a very large district. It covers Iberia, St. Martin, and St. Mary Parish. I grew up in St. Martinville, so I know a little bit about St. Martin Parish. My husband, Corey Kimmel, and I currently reside in Iberia Parish, and my private practice is here in New Iberia. So I know a little bit about Iberia Parish. I'm having to learn some more about St. Mary. But I really like the opportunity to get out. I've been learning a lot and also been meeting a lot of people, and I'm excited about meeting a lot more people in not only our parish, but in the whole district. One of the reasons I decided to run for judge is the work I've been doing with the Public Defender's Office. I started working with the Public Defender's Office when I graduated from law school here in Iberia Parish, and I've had an opportunity to do work with the other parishes also. But in my work with the Public Defender's Office, I started to see that people in our community that are dealing with the justice system, and also people outside of the justice system, have lost some confidence in the justice system, as well as, you know, you can see they've lost confidence in politics. So I feel like if I can get on the bench, then maybe I can restore that respect and that confidence that I grew up having for the justice system. I had the privilege of growing up in the legal community, so I have a strong understanding of the responsibilities that a judge has and the seriousness that you have to have when you go into the courtroom, and the respect that not only needs to be paid to your job on the bench, but to the people that come before you, the lawyers and the members of the community. One thing I think that's very important to me as a lawyer is that everyone gets heard. A lot of times I hear that from my clients and different people is they didn't feel like they had an opportunity to be heard, to have their, as you hear somebody say, they want their day in court. So sometimes, even though they don't like the decision you make, they just feel like they need that opportunity to know someone's listening to them. And that's one thing I can promise and that I've learned in my private practice and working with the public defender's office is that sometimes you just have to sit there and listen to somebody and understand that everyone's circumstance is a little different, why they're there before you, and that helps you make a decision and apply the law to their situation. And sometimes when you take that time to do that, they'll respect your decision a lot more and respect that you've taken that time to listen to them. I'm here today to see if anybody has any questions, but obviously I don't want to take up too much of y'all time. For those that know me, you know you can reach out to me if there's people that live in your district that want to meet me or have some questions. Please feel free to contact me. I'm more than happy to set up whether it's one-on-one or small meetings with people in the area to get to know people a little bit better, and also for them to get to know me, so that way when they're going into that time where they're trying to make their decision, that they know that they've made the right decision, not that someone just told them that's who you should vote for. I want people to have an opportunity to meet me and know about me so they know that they're voting for the right judge. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Thank you, Mr. Mai. Good luck.
Thank you. Good luck.
And if I have permission from Ms. Broussard and the council, I have to try to get over to St. Mary, so I'm not going to stay for the whole meeting. As you know, I usually try to do that. Is that okay?
No problem.
Thank you.
No problem. Next, we'll move to comments from the general public on agenda items. Persons being considered for appointment to the parish boards or commissions to address the council. Is there anybody in the audience that wants to address the council regarding being appointed to boards or commissions? Just state your name and the board you're applying for.
Yes, hello again. My name's Chance Lindsay. I'm reapplying for the Acadiana Fairgrounds Commission. A little something about myself. I grew up here in New Iberia, come up through rodeo, and I'm actually a horseshoer. That's what I do for a living. At the age of 12, I began rodeoing, came up to New Iberia Senior High, state level. Senior year, placed fourth in nationals in the calf roping. Full ride rodeo scholarship out West Texas. I've been in the horse business my whole life. I have two small kids. I'm looking to promote rodeo and so maybe some youth rodeos coming to the Sugarina. It would bring out of state contestants, and it would hopefully be a good thing, and just try to help and do whatever I can with the commission. So appreciate y'all time. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Lindsay.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the audience?
Good evening. My name is Nancy Marshall, and I'm applying for the Parish Sewage District Number 1. I grew up in New Iberia and recently moved back 8 years ago, and I've always wanted to serve my community. My youngest is in college, and I felt this was a time for me to help make our community much better than it is. I don't have any certain qualifications. I'm not an engineer, but I am a big consumer of the parish the water, the sewage, really big. And, sorry, I know it's important to have a good sewage system, and I know people are having issues with their sewage having gone up. I was one of them, so I decided that I wanted to be part of the solution. So, and that's why I put my name forward to this board. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Marshall.
Thank you.
Any other members?
Hello, my name is Cindy Lilla, and I am here to applied for the Acadiana Area Human Services District position, board position, that's in Lafayette representing Iberia Parish. I have been with ARC of Acadiana for 23 years, and I'm Chief Operations Officer. I oversee a budget of $34 million. We have 30 managers where we operate in 5 parishes. We are the largest ARC in the state of Louisiana, serving people with developmental disabilities. And we are all the way up to North Louisiana and Bossier City now. So I think that I can bring a lot to the board with my experience, as well as the representation of families here in Iberia Parish. Any questions about that?
I do have one question
Yeah.
for you, Ms. Lillard. Where do you reside?
I reside in Youngsville. I grew up in Iberia Parish. I've been living in Youngsville for the last 10 years.
All right, so you're no longer a resident of Iberia
No,
Parish?
but our office is in Iberia Parish
Okay.
on Highway 90.
Any other questions for Ms.
Mhm.
Lillard?
No, I think
Thank
she can
you.
do a good job.
Thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Lillard.
Thank you.
Any other persons? I'm gonna, Terry LeBlanc or Lloyd Ormsted? Hearing none, I need a motion to close public comments. Moved by Mr. Paul Landry.
Second.
Second by Mr. Eugene Olivier. Roll call. That motion carries. Moving to reports, finance, and administrative action, bid tabulations for nuisance grass properties opened on June 27th, 2017. That was included in our packets. Is there any comments or discussions on that? Reports, parish or other governmental agencies, none. Public work reports, Public Works Department report for closed work orders dated June 26th to 30th, 2017. That was in our packet. Special business, none. Moving on to council member announcements. Mr.
Okay.
Major?
I had the pleasure of going to the Park and Recreation meeting the other day, the weekend of September 15th to 17th. They're going to have the Goodbye Summer event over there. There'll be a Saturday Kids Walk for Childhood Cancer. There'll be a fish fry on Friday night. And I think I've talked my son Scott and Dustin Swear into entering the pork finger cook it your own way cook-off. So if anybody else is interested in vying for second place, be sure to enter.
For second place, huh?
Mr. Dugas?
Yes, I'd like to let everyone know that on Saturday, August 19th, we'll be doing the 6th annual Save the Lake trash pickup on Lake Dotrieve Lake Forest Point. It's been a while since the trash has been picked up, and after all the floods and the high water, there's been a lot of debris out there. So if y'all want to come out and get a few cold soft drinks and hot dogs, come out and help us clean the lake up. Thank you.
Mr. Olivier?
Yes, I'd like to take this opportunity to express my thanks to the parish government as well as the Larry's administration and Herb Jones for addressing the West Nile virus issue in the Grand Marais, Pattonville, Lydia area. And I'd like to yield my time to Herb, if you don't mind, Madam Chair, to give us an update on his efforts.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Mr. Olivier, for opportunity to just kind of illustrate to the council how we will respond when we get these notifications, and not only in District 10, but how we will respond anywhere in the parish when we receive a notification of activity, virus activity within our mosquito samples. First, the type of sampling that we do, it tells us exactly what type of mosquito it is, how many mosquitoes there are, and where that location is. And with that information, we know the biology of that specific mosquito. Its breeding habits, its foraging and host-seeking habits, how its activity period, and most of all, its flight range. So that allows us to intercede with very focused and very specific interventions. So on the Friday prior to the July 4th holiday, we received notification from the LSU School of Veterinary Medicine that we had samples with active virus activity in those samples. So that very Friday evening, we were able to direct aerial operations to those locations and repeat those aerial operations that Sunday, the same weekend. And for that Monday prior to the July 4th holiday and the Wednesday following, we were able to direct our ground spray trucks there. Meanwhile, all the way through Friday through Wednesday, excluding the holiday, we were able to do larviciding operations all throughout the southeastern portion of the parish, as well as make an attempt to prepare the parish for the July 4th holiday. So that's a little bit of the scope and the magnitude of effort that we put forward to address these situations. And what our follow-up sampling that we received, the results that we received Friday, were all negative, not only for the locations in District 10, but all locations across the parish. That's the best case scenario whenever we do our job, but we know Mother Nature, it always carries a bigger stick than we do. But just a recap of what our district does in relation to those types of indications. And we don't put out the notifications to alarm people, but we want you guys to know we're serious. And this is a serious matter to us, for the service that we provide to the parish. And we'd like for citizens just to take notice, to make a little extra effort, be aware of when they're outdoors, use a little repellent. You're tired of hearing me say that, but those little things make a difference so far as our exposure to mosquito bites and mosquitoes that are potentially carrying disease-causing pathogens. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry.
Thank you.
I received a lot of calls about the mosquito West Nile issue in my district the last week or so. So again, a great job addressing those issues, addressing those phone calls that people call to treat these areas where mosquito larvae was breeding, and job well done. Larry, again, thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Thank you so much.
Any other council member announcements? Parish President announcements, Mr. Richard?
Okay, Acadiana Planning Commission will be holding the Vermilion River Watershed Outreach for our Iberia Parish, Vermilion, and St. Mary Parish on Monday, the 17th, at the Iberia Sugarcane Festival Building. The time is at 1:30, start at 1:30 to 3:30. And if you guys are available, try to attend. I'm going to be holding a State of the Parish address on July the 19th at 6 o'clock at the Slyman. I will have details and information concerning issues and projects in Iberia Parish. If y'all can attend that, do that as well. Tomorrow night, the Evangelia Council, Boy Scouts of America, will present its 21st annual Iberia Parish Distinguished Citizen Award dinner honoring me.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
I have no idea why. This event will take place at the Copenhagen, so if you guys get a chance, come on by. But it's going to have a fee. They're trying to raise money. That's it for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Richard. Consent agenda items for public hearing. We have the approval of the minutes of May 24th, 2017, and the authorizing the parish president to execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Department of Transportation for the off-system road rehabilitation program. Does anybody want any of the consent agenda items removed and put on the regular agenda? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda items? Moved by Mr. Michael Landry, second by Mr. Marty Trahan. Any discussion? Roll call. Motion carries. Ordinance introduced for public hearing and adoption, summary number 4841, introduced by Natalie Broussard, District 6, an ordinance to amend and reenact Division 1 of Article 3 of Chapter 2 of the compiled ordinances of Iberia Parish, Louisiana, relating to boards and commissions, to add Section 2-44 to provide with respect to the removal of appointees to boards and commissions, to provide for the effective date thereof, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Move.
I have a motion by Mr.
Second.
Tommy Landry, a second by Mr. Paul Landry. Any discussion? Mr. Shealy, we addressed the issue that it's not only for attendance, but it's for anything that's adverse to the parish.
It is. I think one thing I would point out is that the appointment or the removal of members of boards or commissions is the way the council exerts its influence over boards and commissions, and that you have the right to, generally speaking, you have the right to remove persons from boards or commissions for cause or without cause. You have that absolute right. I did list a number of things that were for cause. Many of them were the things that most of you had pointed out to me as things that had created problems in the past that would give you the opportunity to remove those members. I think I captured those that each one of you mentioned to me, but I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Shealy or any other discussion? Roll call. That motion carries. Resolutions introduced for public hearing and adoption. Summary number 103, introduced by the clerk of the council. A resolution appointing one member to the Acadiana Fairgrounds Commission for a 5-year term to fill a vacancy created by the expiration of term of Chance Lindsay, whose term expires September 24, 2017. Applications of interest are on file from Lloyd Armstead and Chance Lindsay. It's my understanding that Mr. Armstead has not come before the council to introduce himself, so that makes him ineligible. So we'll just vote yea or nay on Mr. Lindsay. We don't have to do roll call. I need a motion though. Moved by Mr. Gonsalas. Second by Mr. Trahan. Any discussion? Roll call. Ricky.
I'm sorry. I didn't push it hard enough.
Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Lindsay, for being willing to serve,
Thank you, Chan.
even after getting a taste of it.
You know what you're walking into. Thank you.
Summary number 104, introduced by the clerk of the council, a resolution appointing Mr. Frank Stoltz to the Iberia Parish Communications District, representing an at-large position for a 4-year term to fill a vacancy created by the expiration of term for Frank Stoltz, whose term expires August 28, 2017. Mr. Stokes did come and introduce himself at the last meeting, I believe. So I have a motion by Mr. Trahan. Second by Mr. Francis. Any discussion? Roll call. Motion carries. Summary number 107, introduced by the clerk of the council, a resolution appointing Mr. Terry LeBlanc to the Waterworks District Number 3 Board for a 5-year term to fill a vacancy created by the expiration of term for Mr. Terry LeBlanc, whose term expires August 5th, 2017. Mr. Terry LeBlanc did not come before the council, so I do not believe he's eligible to be appointed tonight. So I have a motion to table it, and I have a second. Moved by Mr. Paul Landry, second by Mr. Berwick Francis, and Mr. I'm sorry, Mr. Chad Monteran. I'll get it. Any discussion on the motion to table?
Yeah, will he be notified?
Yes.
I mean,
I spoke to him yesterday, and he's work related. He wasn't gonna be able to make it.
We don't have any other applications, so if he comes, then we can do it.
it could
but-
affect the quorum moving down the line, so we probably need to
So
set it.
the table is to table it to the next full council meeting. Any other discussion? Roll call. Motion carries. Summary number 130, introduced by the clerk of the council, a resolution appointing Ms. Cindy Lilla to the Acadiana Area Human Services District 4, representing Iberia Parish for the remainder of a term to fill a vacancy created by the expiration of term for Ms. Dorla Louvier, whose term expired on April 22nd, 2017.
Move. Second.
Motion by Mr. Napier, second by Mr. Gonsalas. Any discussion?
Question,
Yes.
is this board, does it require that, the applicants that would reside within the parish?
Mr. Shealy?
I don't know the answer to that. Most of those statutes do require residency. I don't know about this one in particular, but this board consists of about 8, I think it's 8 parishes. And you've got some that are appointed by the parish governments, some are appointed by the governor. This is your one appointment, so I would suggest that you might give me an opportunity to look to determine whether or not residency is a requirement, and maybe table it and come back.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a substitute motion that we table upon better clarification.
Table it to the next meeting.
Table it to the next meeting. So we
I have a motion to table, and I have a second by Mr. Brown.
Yeah, and the application would be open for anyone else.
All right, so you're requesting that the application process, the second is asking that the substitute be tabled to the next meeting and the application process stay open for any other residents of Iberia Parish to apply.
Well, yes, because if we have an ordinance that said that you have to live inside the parish,
We wanna
then
be
we're gonna open it anyway, so yes.
All right, so that's okay with the
Yes.
mover.
Yes.
All right, so I have a motion and a second. Mr. Napier?
Just a thought about what's going on. If it comes out that Mr. Shealy finds out that the applicant doesn't have to reside here, do we still have to open it? Because wasn't it opened and nobody applied?
Correct.
She applied. If it's okay for her to serve, why do we open it up again? Just a thought.
I mean, I agree with that. I mean, that's,
If it fits that Mr. Shealy says she can serve, why open it up again? That's
Well,
just my question.
My response would be nothing against Miss Lilla. I don't know her, and I think she would do an excellent job from what I heard from her introduction. But we do represent the residents and the citizens of Iberia Parish. And if there is a resident or citizen of Iberia Parish that's interested, I think that we should give them that opportunity and at least give them that consideration.
And I agree, and wasn't this open, Brenda, for a certain period of time? Okay, so anybody that could have, they had an opportunity, is what I'm saying. To be fair to her.
Mr. Trahan?
On the case of Miss Lilla, my daughter is a special needs, and Miss Lilla represents how many kids in Iberia Parish? 350. And she does an excellent job, and she knows where this money needs to go. She's been in this service for 23 years.
Mr. Goshenson?
I want to go back to the Waterworks District. I mean, we just did the same exact thing there. Twice we've tabled that, and no one's asked to open up for more nominations. I mean, he hasn't appeared back in front of this board, so we're going to go back to another position and say, well, we need to open it up. I just ask that we be consistent. If we're going to do it for this one, we need to go back and also do it for the Waterworks District, because it's been like that for 2 weeks, for 2 meetings. So, let's fair is fair.
Yeah.
Mr. Gosselin?
I think we leave it as is pending approval from the DA. If the DA comes back and says that the residency is a factor, then we open it up for application there. But I think we owe it to leave it up for DA's opinion on this issue.
Mr. Brown?
Well, to answer Mr. Garcia's question, I mean, nobody applied.
So I take for granted that it was open for everybody. And I'm not saying that this lady won't do a good job. But since there's a problem there that we don't know about, I'm just saying open it up. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't vote for it.
Yeah, I don't know if
But
we
this
have a
gonna come
problem.
back
I don't
at
know if
us
we,
again.
I don't know if we have a problem. I mean, until Andy comes back, I don't think there's a problem yet.
There's probably a problem.
There is a problem?
All right. So-
There is?
We don't know.
So if it's not a problem, let's just let her go now. If you saying it's not a problem. I don't
I'm
think it's
saying
right.
until Mr. Shealy
Mr.
says
Napier,
there is
Mr.
a
Brown has the
problem.
floor.
He's pointing at me like he wants me to answer
Well,
him, so I'm
well, you
answering.
can- that's all right.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, let's just do it right, because this gonna come back and we're gonna have to look at this the same way. And I'm just saying, just open it up and whatever happened, let it happen. That's all I'm saying. Give everybody a chance. Let's do it right. That's all.
Any further discussion?
I second that motion.
Mr. Brown, I think we have done it right. I don't think we taken anybody out. I think that it was open, and everybody had an opportunity. This lady applied. The only thing, in my opinion, that needs to be done, Mr. Shealy needs to let us know if she can sit. If she can sit, she's on it. If not, we open it up to Iberia Parish residents only, and it's stated that in the paper or wherever it goes.
Okay.
That's where I'm going.
Mr. Francis?
No, I just see that the deadline was on April 22nd. I was wondering, like, did they have an extension or?
The term expired on April 22nd, and that's one thing that I wanted to point out. I don't know which way it goes, but it's been vacant since April. And if we don't open it up for new applications and she's not eligible, then we're leaving ourselves unrepresented even longer.
So they
That's
don't-
the only thing I would say.
So they didn't have a cap period, but they giving us a certain amount of time? No, I'm just saying they didn't give us a cap limit of, they giving us a certain amount of time to fill it, or?
No, we don't have
What about the lady that's serving now? Is she still serving?
No, she has resigned.
So she's off.
So this is just to, well, it says to fill the vacancy whose term expired on April 22nd. So that confuses me, but it looks like it's been vacant since April 22nd.
I got one more question.
Mr. Napier?
Man, that's a lot of questions.
I didn't mean for that to come out like that, but, Mr. Shealy, could I ask you, how long do you think it would take for that answer to come back, if I'm not putting you on the spot?
Before the next meeting.
In
fact, I'm sitting here right now trying to.
Trying to figure it out.
Well, trying to. Unfortunately, on their website, they got a reference to a revised statute, but it doesn't have the title number, it has a section number, which I'm gonna keep looking, but,
Mr. Trump?
Can we move on?
All right, so we have a motion, we have a substitute motion with a second, and I'm going to call for roll call.
Can you repeat it?
The motion is to table it to the next meeting and to open the application process up for any other residents of Iberia Parish to apply pending the, that's the motion.
Oh, you gotta vote on the substitute
No,
first.
that's
That's
not
not
what
what
I
he
said.
said. No.
That is the substitute.
No, that's
It
not what he
wasn't.
said. He
Wait,
added-
stop, one at a time. Mr. Brown seconded and requested that the motion be changed. I asked the mover if he was okay with that, and he said yes.
Okay.
Right.
We can't do that. Can't do
Well,
that.
he
The
amended his.
the substitute motion was clarified by the gentleman. He can't change the substitute motion of the mover.
No.
He requested it, and
And I
I
didn't-
asked him if that was okay with the mover, and he said yes.
Okay, I didn't hear that.
I withdraw my substitute motion. So if somebody else wants to.
Can they withdraw without a vote?
Yes.
I mean, you have a motion and a second.
He waived.
All right. So now we have no motion on the table.
Main motion.
We have the original motion, yes. All right, Mr. Trong?
I'd like to table him so we can revisit toward, at the end of the agenda, if Mr. Shealy would have his deal, if he's looking it up online.
So you want to just pass it to the
Pass
end
it.
of the agenda?
And then we'll decide whether we
Second.
have to.
I'm good with
Is that okay with you, Mr. Shealy? Do you, or would you rather have more
Well,
time?
And at that time, we'll,
Look, I'll go right now, but you see, when you do that, you may.
I agree with
take
you.
it out of the meeting,
I agree with
Any
you.
other question that may come up.
Hey,
That, you know.
you were looking at it, I just took it for instance.
Well, that's why I said, that's why I suggested it be tabled until the
I
next
agree.
meeting, so I can have.
No, he's got to waiver his first. He's got a motion.
Well, we don't have a second to Mr. Trahon's motion.
I'll move the table till the next scheduled meeting, please.
I'll second the table the next.
All right, so I have a motion by Mr. Olivier
Just to
to table it to the next meeting. I have a second by Mr. Gonsalas. No, without opening. That's without opening the application
table.
process. Roll call. Motion carries.
All right.
Summary number 131, oh, Ms. Lillo, you will not have to come back to reintroduce yourself. That's good, thank you. Summary number 131, introduced by the clerk of the council, a resolution appointing Ms. Nancy Alvarez Marshall to the Iberia Parish Sewage District Number 1 for the remainder of a term to fill a vacancy created by the removal of Steve Freeman, whose term expires January 25th, 2021.
Move.
I have a motion by Mr.
Second.
Paul Landry, a second by Mr. Brian Napier. Any discussion? Roll call. That motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Marshall.
Thank
We
you, Miss Nancy.
appreciate your willingness to serve. Summary number 132, introduced by Paul G. Landry, District 7, a resolution requesting support from the Louisiana Legislative Delegation to install Iberia Parish exit here signs on the I-10 corridor at its intersection with I-49 in efforts to increase economic benefit. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Paul Landry, second by Mr. Marty Trahan.
question.
Any discussion? Mr. Gashasan?
Mr. Landry, why wouldn't we add DOTD in there also? They're the ones that place them there. Their request would go from the legislature anyways to the DOTD.
What they're trying to say is that from that intersection, they usually don't take a town until it's like 40 miles out, and we fall in that dead zone. So that's why they got Morgan City. But, you know, times change and things like that. 20 years ago, I didn't have a cell phone, didn't have a wife either. But I think it's something that they can, you know, they can look into changing, you know, whether it's just for this local thing or whatever.
I would just ask us to consider DOTD. I mean, I don't know if a
fine.
legislative body can have override over DOTD, but I mean, or at least the governor, or somebody in that.
We could add that.
Yeah, if you don't mind, because I think most of the requests go into them,
Right,
correct?
yeah, exactly. But Paul, just for information, they have it for Opelousas, which is not 40 miles out. And it also says
Yeah.
exit for Opelousas, so if they can do it for Opelousas, they should be able to do it for Iberia Parish.
Right.
Somebody made it happen.
I say we change it.
So I have a motion to substitute,
amend.
to
We
amend.
might be.
It says that a resolution requesting support from Louisiana Legislative Delegation and DOTD.
That's good.
And the governor.
And that's good with,
And the governor. Right?
I mean,
and the
it's-
governor?
I'll do governor.
I think we ought to keep
And
it
it
going.
I think you need to go.
Hey,
All right.
You'd be surprised. You cut on
So
some
that
capital outlay.
is the motion that was made by
You're right.
Mr. Landry okay with the second?
One second.
Any further discussion? Roll call. I'm trying to keep y'all on target, I tell you. Motion carries.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Summary number 133, introduced by the parish president, a resolution amending the 2017 solid waste sales tax fund budget in the amount of $208,000 to provide funding for recycling collection through September 2017, all to be funded from the fund balance previous years. Do I have a motion?
Move.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Olivier, second by Mr. Gonsalas. Any discussion? Roll call. Motion carries. Resolutions continued, summary number 134, introduced by Ricky Gonsalas, District 8, a resolution authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with the City of New Iberia to provide animal control services within the city limits, with the City of New Iberia to provide a portion of the funding in the amount of blank, and the Iberia Parish Sheriff to provide a vehicle for said services.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Tommy Landry, seconded by Mr. Ricky Gonsalas. Discussion?
Tommy.
I'd like to put that
Paul,
num-
wait. Where are we going first? Tommy?
I'd like to put that number at 30,000.
All right, so we have a motion to amend to fill in the
30,000,
blank to
sorry.
be funding in the amount of $30,000.
Not to exceed. Up to 30.
I got fussed
Up
out
to.
one time when I said up to in amount in the budget.
Not to exceed.
Not to exceed there.
I was told that a budget has to have a number. That we can't say not to exceed, that we have to put a number for budget purposes.
Thank you, right, Madam.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
the chairman is correct.
If they don't use the 30, then it stays in the fund. Mr. Brown?
Larry, this 30,000 is what y'all.
Yes, the mayor and I have spoken. In fact, I also spoke with some of the council members about the mayor and I have spoken, and what we're trying to do, $30,000 should be put in to do what we're doing. The mayor is here. Would like to get up and.
Sure. Good evening, members of the council, parish president. Thanks for having me. Hopefully this is one of many intergovernmental agreements and joint ventures that we do together. I'm very pleased. Dan would be here tonight, my mayor pro tem. He's a little under the weather. Just have to thank a couple people. Ricky, thank you for putting on the agenda. Larry and I probably talk 3 times a week at least. I talk to many of you council members. I mean, this is just the beginning of really partnering and working together. As you know, we don't have a dog catcher in our current sheriff's contract. The sheriff has agreed to give the city the dog catcher truck, so I'll have that asset to put in. Larry and I spoke, as well as with some of you, that we would find a way to joint venture on this and split the cost. I think it just makes sense. I'm a big believer in 2 separate governments, but in my 7 months in, I was already, but now, boy, I'm a teamwork player. We need to partner on anything we can. I think that's the future. I think anything that can benefit both of our governments, it's all our citizens. We're all Iberia Parish. So I can't thank y'all enough.
All right.
And just for the record, we're not hiring a full-time employee.
Part-time.
We're actually going to do a part-time employees. We got this worked out pretty good.
Mr. Gonsalas, you finished?
Just want to thank the mayor and Larry. I think this is just one of the simple problems that the constituents asked to have. Simple solution, work through it, and both sides are going to benefit, and for the taxpayers of this community. And I look forward to more agreements moving forward.
Mr. Napier?
Mayor.
Yes, sir.
This is just the city of New Iberia.
Correct.
That's
Correct. This joint venture would be between the city of New Iberia and parish government.
Okay, so it doesn't go outside of that.
And we're going to do a 1 year, I don't know if that's in there, but we talked about doing a 1 year, let's see how it works.
Right.
I have some other issues. As you know, I'm going for a tax to bring back our police department. That's in October. That could maybe change something, so we decided we would do 1 year, make sure this works, make sure that we both want to continue this. You know, I think it could be beneficial.
Thank you.
One more?
Yes, sir.
Larry, we do, one more question.
Yeah, right.
We do have, I'm all for that. We do have something in the
For the whole
parish.
parish,
that works
absolutely,
in the
yes,
parish.
yes.
I wanted it stated for the
Yeah,
people out there to know that
it's a parish-wide deal.
Right.
We're just doing this with the city.
Right.
They had their own.
to the Napier House.
Yeah, I just want to make sure they don't end up all in Generat. Okay. Okay, Freddie, don't bring them to Generat. all right?
This is the Napier residence.
Mr. Dugas?
Yeah, so Mr. Napier brings up a good question. I'm curious, since the sheriff is donating that vehicle, is this particular case a city-only or is it gonna venture out into the parish also?
We were hoping that this truck, it was an asset, the sheriff was kind enough to donate it to us. The dog catcher has been taken out of the current, the new contract. So he donated the truck to the city. I'm willing to do whatever. I mean, if I have to donate the truck back to the parish or whatever, that truck would be furnished to, as a, you know, an asset I could bring to the table with the kindness of the sheriff to use in the city.
No.
But I mean, if it needs to go somewhere else,
To use in Iberia, we're gonna use it.
yeah, if you use it throughout the parish, it's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, parish.
You know, that can be part of the intergovernmental agreement.
Okay, that's my question, thank you.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Thank you, Fred.
Thank you all very
Motion
much.
carries. Mr. Shealy?
Madam Chairman, before the meeting's over, if you would like to return to the Human Services District, I do have an answer.
Yes, sir.
Just, if you want to do it now, whenever you want. It does appear that they have to be a resident of the parish.
All right,
They do,
so-
they do.
Motion to pull.
Yes, if you'll
Motion to
hold on just
reconsider.
a second, so
Or
the phone
reconsider.
will quit ringing so I can
Motion
go
to
back to it.
reconsider, summary number,
130,
whatever it is.
130.
Third.
130.
So I have a motion by Mr. Goshasan to reconsider summary number 130. I have a second by Mr. Gonsalas. Need discussion on the motion to reconsider?
Got to vote on reconsideration.
Roll call.
Yeah, I'm
Mr.
just going to
Chair.
say that the statute says the number of members on the board shall consist of one representative from each parish in the region who is appointed by the local governmental authority. It appears, although it doesn't say resident, it says from each parish, which seems to indicate residency.
Open it back up. Okay.
All right, so now we're back to the original summary number 130. I don't need to reread the summary, I don't think. Discussion, Mr.
Make a
Gonsalas?
substitute motion to re-advertise this position for the summary number 130.
So you're making a motion to table it to the next full council meeting
And
and
re-advertise.
to re-advertise and open it for applications
And be sure we
from
state Iberia Parish resident.
members of Iberia Parish. Do I have a second? I have a second by Mr. Francis. Mr. Trahan, you wanted the floor? Any further discussion?
Yes.
Mr.
I
Richard?
just want to pass on to the council that,
But can we vote
we didn't
first
vote
on
yet.
this?
oh, you
before
go, okay, go ahead, I'm sorry. My bad.
Roll call.
My bad.
Personal privilege.
That motion carries. Mr. Richard?
We have an employee, Kenny Broussard, one of our employees at the Sugar Arena passed away on Monday. Just want to make you all aware of that. He was an employee for 10 years, and it's going to be greatly missed.
Our condolences to his family. I knew he was ill for
For a while.
a while.
Yes.
Sorry to hear for that.
Move to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn
Second.
by Mr. Goshtan, second by Mr. Olivier. We will break for 5 minutes.